How does it sound? It's right, no? Do. It'll do. Right, okay. I know you've got to rush off, but we must get together and talk about this because...
We must indeed.
Yeah, we must have a little party of some sort. Are we all here? Jonathan, are we?
Yeah, I'm good to go. Turn it on.
Sorry, I've been on camera all the time, have I?
Only the past few minutes. That's fine.
Oh, okay. So the third and the fourth fits of Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. Before dawn, many of the Christmas guests ready themselves to go. Full early before the day, the folk are uprisen. Guestes that go would her gromers they called them. And they busken up believer, blonkes to saddle, tiffen her tackles, tursen her males, richen him the richest to read alle a ride. Leppen up lichtly, latchen her bridles, uch a wich on his way, there him well a leaked. And the lord of the land, after eating a sop hastily and hearing mass, is away with his retinue and hounds to the woodland with the loud blast of horns. On this first hunt it is deer that are harried and shot at with arrows throughout the day, with the lord the joyful leader of the merry chase. Meanwhile, back at the comely castle, Gawain, that goodly man, in his gay bed is lying, and as from slumbering he slides, then stealthily he hears a little tapping at his door, which directly opens. It is the lady, most lovely, who steals to his bed and sits softly upon it. Gawain feigns sleep. The lord he lay there lurking for a longer while, even casting in his conscience quite what the occasion might move thus or amount to. He marvelled to think on it, but yet he said in himself that more seemly it would be to spy out through my speech in due space what her wish is. Then he stirred himself and stretched, and to her station he turned, and unlocking his eyes' lids, he then looked out as in wonder, and signed himself as if by such speech the more safely to keep him forfend. With her chin and cheek most sweet, both of white and red in blend, most lovingly does she him greet, fair lips do her laughter spend. Good morrow, Sir Gawain, said that gay lady. Ye are a sleeper onslieger, that one may slee de hidder. Now are ye tarn a steed. Good morning, Sir Gawain, said that gayest lady. You are a sleeper insouciant, that one may slide in hither. Now are you taken in a trice? They banter, and Gawain asks to be allowed to rise and clothe himself better. But the lady, now hasping him in with her arms, teases him with compliments and says, because I have in this house now him that all honour, I shall take my good time now truly while it lasts in parley. You are welcome to my course, to choose what joy you may. It behoves me by a fine force your servant to be, so I say. Ye are welcome to me course, your owen one to wale. May behoves of fine force, your servant to be, and shall. Gawain in comely fashion declares his unworthiness, and the lady returns that he is a prize of which any woman would be glad. So she made him thus much good cheer, who was so fair of her face. The knight then with converse clear answered her in every case. Gawain further declares his unworthiness, and she again states his desirability. He offers himself soberly as her servant and knight in Christ's name, and adds that she is now with one better. And the narrator here directly suggests what may be Gawain's thinking, but which may, because the original text is ambiguous, through scribal error, be the lady's thinking. Though she was a beauty of the brightest, that bold one was of a mind so to be less tender in his talk, for the test he must seek out without boon, for the blow that would him then cleave, and needs that it must be done. The lady then said she would leave. He granted her that full soon. But then, having bidden him good day, she turns again to chide him to his great discomfort, saying that he has failed in his courtesy by not claiming a kiss. Then said Gawain, I grant you must be given your desire. I shall kiss now at your commandment as to a captain falls, who fears in case he displeases you, so plead it no more. She then comes with that nearer and catches him in her arms and leans lovingly downwards, and that lord she then kisses. This is not the Gawain who chased through the chancel to make her acquaintance. And she leaves, and Gawain rushes to rise, goes to mass and a meal, and we are told, night was never so fairly engaged between two such dignified dames, the younger and the aged, much solace set they the same. We now return to the hunt in the Haltwoods, and a lengthy and detailed account is given of the butchering of the fit and fat slain deer. This is described, one might say, with relish. Then the flesh is apportioned, the ravens given their fee, and the hounds fed, with the liver and the lights and the lining of the paunches. The bread bathed all in blood was blended in with that. Prize is blown on the bugles, and the hunt returns to the comely castle. The company is assembled, and the lord of the house flaunts his venison. Gawain appraises and praises it, and the exchange is made. Gawain says, What I have worthily won here, these walls within, I grant you with as good will shall be given to yourself. He hasps then his fair neck, puts his arms around him, and kisses him with what comeliness he could so devise. And kisses him as comely as he could avise. Gawain then deflects the hosts, teasing as to where ye won this ilke wale, this wealth. That was not forward, that was not our forward, Gawain says. And with blithe and gay jesting they go to supper. And after, in the Lord's chamber, with the worthiest of wines and further jollity, they confirm the same accord for the following day. After breakfast and mass, the hunters are away again, and the hounds soon cry on the scent of what proves to be the most brawny and ferocious of boars, which beast hurts many hounds and men as it charges out and off. For he was a bronde boer, al the gratis, full grim when he groaned, though a grave o money, for three at the first thrust he thricht to the earth, and sped him forth good spade, bout a speed or more. Then at bay he is shot at with arrows which cannot pierce his brow, but drive him brain wode for bat, brain mad with the baiting. And away he goes again, hurting many more, with the Lord in boldest pursuit. Now the narrator flicks the scene for us again, telling us that while our lovely lady lies in his bed, Gawain gravely at home, in gear is full rich of hue. The lady nocht for yata, come to him to salute, full early who what's him at, his mood for to renew, his mood for to test. The lady is most bold. She again questions Gawain's courtesy, saying that he has forgotten her earlier lesson about kissing, whereso the countenance is keen. Gawain says that he dare not, lest he be indicted. But, "Ma fay," quoth the mayor weef, "ye may not be wearned. Ye are stiff enough to constrain with strength if you like it. If any were so villainous that you defy or would." "Eh, by God," quoth Gawain, "good is your speech, but threat is unthrivender in thede there ich lende, but threats do not thrive there among those that I dwell with." But at her call and command, he accepts a kiss, prone as he still is in his gear as full rich of hue, in his garb of noble hue. And then she pursues her far from brain-mad quarry further, teasing and taunting. "I needs must know of you, knight," that noble one said then, "and not worry you with it, where may be the skill of one so young and yeasty as are you at this time, so courteous, of such courage as you are called everywhere. When regarding chivalry, the choicest, the chief matter praised is loyal leaning to love sport and the letters of arms. For to tell of the contesting of these truest of knights, that is the entitling token and text of all their works. How lords out of loyal law their love, their lives have adventured, endured out of devotion love's doleful occasions, and then have avenged themselves with valour, and voided all their care, and brought bliss into the bower with the bravery they possess. She says that Sir Gawain, the most noble knight known in his age, is either ignorant or deems her too dull for his dalliance. Gawain returns that she is far more skilled in all this than he, and he again offers himself as her servant, so save me God on high. Thus she tested that true one and tempted him often, in order to edge him into error whatsoever she thought else. But he defended him so fair that no fault assamed, nay non evil on no the halve, no than they wisten, but bliss. They laughed and liked it long. At the last she con him kiss. He leave fair concho fong, and went her way, he wis. So Gawain goes to mass and breakfast, and then larks on with the ladies, while the sire pursues the embattled but still deadly boar, which is again described as brine wood and also as mat, as it holds up beside a burn. And perhaps we may allow that this madness is in the animal a sort of noble courage for survival in the face of torment and death, which now approaches. For the Lord canters up, draws out a bright sword, strides in strongly through the stream, and as the boar hurls itself at him, picks his spot exactly. The swine setteth him out at the sedge even, that the burn and the boar were both upon hapis in the wichtest of the water. The water had that over, for the mon merkes him well as they met the first, set sadly the sharp in the slaughter even, hit him up to the hulter, that the herte shindered, and he jared him yelde, and he down the water full tight. Finished off by the hounds, the boar is now butchered by one wise in the woodland crafts. The hounds are fed, and with the boar's head borne before him, the Lord leads the hunt back to the hall. All are summoned, and after Gawain has shown suitably shocked admiration of the slabs of flesh and the boar's head, he duly makes the exchange of winnings. He hent to the hathel about the halse, and handily him kisses, and after sooners of the same he served him there. Now are we even, quoth the hathel, in this eventide, of all the covenantus that we knitte, sithen ich komme hider below. The Lord said, Be Saint Gill, ye are the best that ich knowe. Ye been rich in a wheeler, such chaffer as ye drawe, such trade in goods you draw. At supper, the lady further tests Gawain's composure. Such a semblance to that soldier in seemliness she made, with subtle stealthy countenance, that stalwart to please, that all in wondering was that wight, and wroth within himself. But he could not for his chivalry in kind make advances, but dealt with her in all daintiness, that whatever the deed to virtue be cast. When they had played in the hall for as long as their will would last, to his chamber the Lord did him call, and then to the chimney they passed. Where with drink they renew the agreement. But then Gawain seeks leave to be gone the next morning. But the host presses him to stay, saying that he will get him to the Green Chapel in time for the tryst. For I have now asked of you twice, and honourable I find you. Now this third time throw to win, and think on the morning. So make we merry as we may, and be minded of our blessings. For a loss may a man so latch on when a man so likes to. This was graciously granted, and Gawain so lingers. Blithely brought them was drink, and then to bed they wended with light. So Gawain lies there and sleeps full still and soft all the night, we are told. And the Lord to his crafts he yet keeps, full and early is ready aright. This time the hounds pick up the scent of a fox, and are craftily led on, lagging by Reynard, till the middle of the day. Will the hende knichte at home wholesomely sleepes within the comely curtains on the colde morn, but the lady for lofe late not to sleep, ne the purpose to pyre that picht in her heart. She approaches Sir Gawain in a fur mantle reaching to the ground, but her thriven face and her throat a throwen alle naked, her breast a bare before on behind eke. Gawain is described as drowsing in dreams, full of dread of the blow he must face. In dry dropping of dream, travelled that a noble. And as he wakes, the lady Lovlich cum lachende sweete fell over his fair face and fatally him kissed. He welcomes her worthily with a while cheer. He say her so glorious and gaily attired, so faultless of her features and of so fine hues, with a wallende joy warmed his heart. With smooth smiling and smolte they smitten into mirth, that al was bliss and bonchef that breke hem between and win. They lauked word is good, much weller than what's therein. Greater peril between him stood, if Mary of her knichte kon minne, if Mary does not remember her knight. For that princess of price, she presses him so closely, nudges him so near to the thread that need him then behoves to either allow thus her loving or give loathly refusal. He cared much for his courtesy, lest craven he be found, but more so for the mischief should he mar it by sinning and be false thus to that fellow who founded that house. The lady gives Gawain the chance to declare that he already had a lover to whom he is faithful, but he says that he has not and will not for a while, at which she mournfully asks for another kiss, which she stoops to give him. Then she asks for some parting gift, a glove perhaps, but Gawain says that he has nothing worthy of her. She then offers him something of her own, a ring, a richer ring of red gold werkes, with a star and a stone stonden aloft, that bear blushende bemes as the brichte sun. But he declines this. She then unlooses a lace thing, lightly, that was lapped about her side there, coiled around her kirtle under the comeliest mantle. Geared was it all of green-hued silk, and with a golden hemming. Gawain refuses even this. Saying that he should accept nothing until he should achieve his challenge. But she then tells him of the girdle's power to protect its wearer from being slain through any skill upon earth. And here the narrator again gives us Gawain's thinking. Then cast about this captain, and it came into his heart that this was a duel against the jeopardy and judgment that he faced, when he achieved to that same chapel his mischance to receive. And might he use subtlety to be not slain, the slating would be noble. Then he was patient with her pricking him, and prayed her to speak on, and she proffered him the piece, and presses it on him strongly, which he granted, and she gave it to him with a goodly will, and besought him for her sake to discover it never, but in honour to hide it from her husband. The high-born one accorded, that never a wight should be aware of it who wis for anything but they two. He thanked her full oft and fain, glad heart and head all through, at which for the third time again she has kissed the knight tried so true. Now we are told Then with allowance to leave, she thus left the night there. For more mirth out of that man she might not now obtain. Gawain lays up the Lovelace, the lady him rachte, and goes to the chapel, where a priest shrives him and absolves him of all his misdeeds, including, or perhaps not, his acceptance and secreting of the girdle. Then he revels with the ladies, and every man there remarks on his especial merriment. Meanwhile, out on the land, Reynard's life is running to its end. He avoids the sword thrust of the lurking lord and seeks escape. But a hound hastens upon him and has him before he may, and right before all the horses' feet they fall on him altogether, and Reynard is stripped of his coat. At the castle later, the lively Gawain, magnificently attired in a turquoise tunic, gamely meets the lord in the middle of the floor, and is the first to offer his winnings. Then he embraces the baron and busses him 3 times, as sweetly and steadily so to set them as he could. The lord teases him about his good fortune. Gawain deflects this as outside the covenant, and then he is given but this foulest fox's fair coat. The fiend can have the takings, and that is but the poorest repayment for such precious things as you have thrust on me thoroughly. 3 such kisses so good. With mirth and minstrelsy, with mates at her wille, they maiden as merry as any maid mochten, with laching of ladies, with lotus of borders, Gawain and the good man, so clad were they both. Then Gawain takes honourable leave for his departure on the morrow to keep his tryst, for which he is to be given the promised guide, and he says his farewells to the ladies of rank. There is much kissing and caring and commending of him to Christ, and then Gawain is brought to his bed at last. The narrator ends this 3rd part of the story with these words: Let him liege there still, he has near that he sought. And ye will a while be still, he shall tell you how they wrought. In this first piece, in the last act of this story, Gawain's byrnie is his mail shirt and his blanc is his horse. Now neist the new year and the nichte passes. The day drives to the derke as drichten a biddies. But while the weather is of the world a wacken it thereover, cloud is kissed and keenly the cold to the earth. With nae off of the north the naked to tena. The snow snittered full snarter that snaped the wielder. The warble in the wind wapped fro the heche and drove out dale full of drifters full greater. The loader listened full well that lie in his bed. That he laukes his lids full little he slepes. Be out a cocker that crow he knew well the steven. Deliverly he dressed up ere the day springed. For there was licht of a lamp that lamed in his chamber. He called to his chamberlain that costly him swared, bade him bring him his byrnie and his blanke saddle. That other fetches him up and fetches him his weeds. Grythed me Sir Gawain upon greater wiese. First he clad him in his clothes the colder for to wear, as then his other harness that holdily was kept. Both his paunts and his plates picked full cleaner. The ring is rocked of the rust of his richer byrnie. And all was fresh as upon first, and he was then fain to thonk. He had upon oche pesa whipped full well and long, the gayest into grace. The burner bade her bring his blanke. Now there nighs the new year and the night is passing. The day drives in on the dark at the dear one's bidding. But wildest weathers of the world were wakening outside, clouds were casting so keenly the cold upon the earth, with nigh enough of the north in its nakedness to punish. The snow sleeting most sharply to snipe at the wild things, and the warbling wind it whapped in from the high ground, and drove every dale full of drifts quite to the greatest. The Lord he listens intently as he lies in his bed there, and though he lowers his lids very little does he sleep. By each cock that crows he recalls well his forward. Directly does he dress himself before the day has sprung on, for there is light of a lamp that illumines his chamber. He calls out to his chamberlain, who quickly then answers, and bids him to bring him his breastmail and his bold steed's saddle. And that other flits on his way to fetch his apparel, and gears up then Sir Gawain in most gracious fashion. First he clad him in his clothes that the cold might be warded, and then his further fittings that had been faithfully kept there. Both his pauncer and his plate armour polished most brightly, the rings all rucked free of the rust in his richest mail shirt. And always fresh as at the first, and he was fain to thank him indeed. He has upon him each piece picked out and polished at need, the gayest knight into Greece. The brave one bids be brought him his steed. Gawain resumes his ceremonial journey to the Green Chapel. Over his armour goes his red coat with the cognizance of the pentacle. Then we are told, yet laughed he not the lice, the lady's gift, that foryatte not Gawain for the good of himself. After belting on his sword, then dressed he with his drury doubly about him, swiftly swathed it around his waist, and sweetly did that knight the girdle of that greenest silk then, that gay one so suited upon that royally red cloth that so richly did show it. But he wore it not that same night for its wealth then, this girdle, for pride in the pendants, how so polished they might be, although the glittering gold stuff gleamed all about its edges, but for the saving of himself, when to suffer it behoved him, to bide his bail without any debate, with no broadsword to be wearing, or any blade. This is all very curious. There is no mention of Gawain hearing mass or taking food. There is the matter of the wearing of his sword, or whether or not he will remove it again. Then there is the consideration that there must have been more of a company present than just the porter to open the gates and so forth, when all the time Gawain is displaying the lady's girdle. And now he voices to himself profuse thanks to his host for the honour shown him, when he himself is displaying the girdle that he has dishonestly kept. There is a company in this castle to great courtesy given. The master that maintains its joy may he have here, and the liege lady all her life may love so betide her. The servant and guide who is to bear his spear and lance hands Sir Gawain his shield. The bridge is brought down, and he goes off into the rugged land in the bitter wild weather to keep his tryst. They boyen be bonkers, their boyers are bar. They klomben be cliffies, their klengers the cold. The heaven wats op holter, but ugly thereunder. Mist mugid on the moor, malt on the mountains. Uchi hill had a hatter, a mist hackle hoja. Brockers beeled and breaker be bonkers about a sheer a shatter and on shores, there they down a shoved. Well, a wheeler was the way, there they be wood a shodden, till it was so in a season that the sun arises that tide. They were on a hill full heiche, the wheat snows lie beside her. The born that rode him be bade his master abide. Gawain's guide gives him the direst warning. There one is a wishy in that waster, the worst upon earth, for he is stiff and stern unto streak a love is, and more he is than any man upon middle erde, and his body bigger than the best fower than are in Arthur's house, Hester other. He chaves that chance at the chapel grainer. There passes none be that place so proud in his armies that he may dingish him to death with dint of his hand. For he is a man merciless, on mercy none uses. For be he churl or the chaplain that be the chapel readers, monk or the master priest over any man else, him think it is quem him to quella as quick go himself. He advises Gawain to go away by some other road, and he will tell no one of it. But Gawain holds fast, saying, though he be a fearful foe to best with his stave so great, the Lord can shape it so his servants doom to abate. Then the servant, somewhat tartly and tersely, directs Sir Gawain down to the bottom of the valley, gives him his helmet and his lance, hit the horse with his halers as hard as he micht, leapes him over the lawn, and leaves the knecht there alle ohne. Be God himself, quoth Gawain, ich will know the great nog ne grone. To God is will ich am full bein, unto him ich have me tone. Gawain makes his way through a rugged pass into the valley. He sees nothing like a chapel, but a balche berge by a bonke, the brimmer beside, a bulging barrow by a bank with a burn there beside, overgrown with grasses, with a hole on each side and at one end. Well, Lord, quoth the genteel knechte, whether this be the grain chapel. Here micht a boter mid nichte, the dale his matiners tell. The devil his matins so tell. Gawain climbs up, helmeted and with his lance, onto the roof of the most cursed of kirks that ever he came within. Then does he hear from the height of the hill, among the harshest rocks, beyond the brook there, on a bank, a wondrously brutal noise. What it clatters among the cliffs, as if to cleave them it should, as of one who on a grindlestone had been grinding a scythe. What, it whirred so and whetted as water at a mill race. What, it rushes out in rings most rawly so to hear. And then, by God now, said Gawain, this gearing, I believe, is addressed to me now, Julie, and is done, sire, at this meeting by rote. Let God so work. Alas, will help me now not a mote. Though my life may from me pass, no dread cry will leave my throat. Gawain shouts to announce his presence. Abide, quoth one on the bonk above over his head, and thou shalt have all in haste that ich thee hychte honest, and you shall have all in haste that which I held you to once. And the sharpening goes on for a while, until there flings out of a fissure a figure brandishing a great Danish axe, newly dressed, with a gleaming lace attached. The gorm in the grainer geared as faster. He reaches the burn, does not wade in, but vaults over using the axe handle. Gawain goes to meet him and is commended for being true to his word. But then the Green Knight taunts him that it is now Gawain's turn to stand a stroke. Gawain says that he will duly bear a single blow, and he bows his head. He leaned with the neck on lute, and showed that sheer alabar, on late as he knocked a dute, for dreader he would not dare. The Green Knight gathers up his grim toll, Gawain to smite, making as if mightily to mar him he purposed. But Gawain glances up, and shrank a little with the shoulder as for the scherpe earn. The Green Knight withholds the blow, and reproves and taunts Gawain at length. Quoth Gawain, is shown to honest, and so will ich no more. They me head fall on the stoners, ich can not hit restore. We can, as it were, see the lace on the axe handle and the girdle coiled round Gawain's midriff. It is here that our author narrator plays one of his games. He describes how the Green Knight, almost in what we might call pantomime, watches the newly resolved and head-bent Gawain wrathfully and like a madman. This time, the blow is again withheld. Gawain graciously awaits it and gives with no part of him, but stands there still as any stone, or rather as the stump of a tree that ravelled is into rocky ground with roots there in hundreds. And merrily did he then remark, the master in the green, so now you have a heart that is whole, I may hit as behoves me. Hold you now to the high won honour that Arthur bestowed on you, and keep now your collar from this cut, if cover you it may. Gawain very grittily and grimly then said, Why, thrash on, you thruster, for you threaten too much now. I hold that your heart is in awe of your own very self. Forsooth, said that other fellow, so fiercely you speak now, I will not linger any longer to delay your errand, I trow. And he strides up to strike at him, and clenches both lip and brow. No marvel that the other was grim, that hoped of no rescue now. He lifts up lightly his large axe, and lets it down straight with the barb of the blade upon the bare-laid collar. But though he heaves with it hotly, he hurts him no more than but snicking him on one side, so that it severs the skin. The sharp edge slides into the flesh, then through the shining fat show the shimmering blood over his shoulders, shot to the earth. When Gawain sees the blood blinking on the snow, he leaps a spear's length away, shoots his shield across him, seeing perhaps the image of the Virgin Mary depicted inside, draws his sword and shouts, "Leave go!" The Green Knight seems delighted with this and merrily assures Gawain that the terms of the covenant have been satisfied. He then explains that the 2 feinted blows were in response to the first 2 exchanges. And he goes on, "Truth must to truth repair, then need a man dread no mishap. On the 3rd you failed me there, and so I returned you that tap. For it is my weed that you are wearing, that very woven girdle, and my own wife you bewound in it, I wit that well, forsooth. Therefore ken I well your kisses and your covenants also, and the wooing there of my wife, for I wrought it thus myself." In general, he finds Gawain the most faultless of fellows. "But here you lacked for a little, sir, and in loyalty were wanting. But that was not for unwarranted work, nor for the wooing either, but because you loved so your life, and the less do I blame you." At first, Gawain quite shrank in his shame, then bursts out, "Cursed become cowardice and covetousness both. In you is villainy and vice that are virtue's destroyers." He flings back the girdle and goes into a further paroxysm of self-disgust, while at no time remarking directly upon the deception and shape-shifting that has occurred. But the other lord laughs hugely and offers reassurance to Sir Gawain that he has done penance here promptly at the point of my axe, and offers him back the girdle as a reproof and a token of the challenge. And he further invites Gawain to make accord with me weafer, that watch your enemy keen. Gawain makes a courteous refusal, and then, while asking to be commended to the comliche and honoured ladies, declares that he has been cunningly and craftily tricked by them. And he goes into what might be considered a graceless lament and furious rant about the wheelers of women, such as Eve and Delilah and Bathsheba. And he ends up by curiously suggesting that he might be excused for having been so beguiled, a word that in his distress and shame he has used 3 times. Then Gawain agrees to keep the girdle to remind himself of the fault and the fantasy of the flesh crabbed, how tender it is to entice touches of filth. And then he courteously inquires of the Green Knight his right name, his Richter Nome. "That shall ich tell thee truly," quoth that other then. "Bertilac do desert ich had in this land." Bertilac tells Gawain how Mon la Fay, the old woman dwelling in his house, once the mistress of Merlin, has brought the whole business about. Mon, the goddess, therefore it is her name, well is known so he how 'tis that ho ne con make full time. She sent me out in this semblance to your splendid hall then, so as to test its reputation, see if truth so it be that runs thus to the greatest renown of the Round Table. She wrought me so wondrously your wits thus to reave, in order to grieve so Guinevere, and to goad her unto death, with the gruesomeness of that very gamester that so ghost-like spoke then, with his head thus in his hand before the highest table. He says that she is even thine aunter, Arthur's half-a-sister, and he invites Gawain to make a merry in me horse, sir, and lovingly commends the knight for his great trouther. But Gawain declines. Then with clasping and kissing, they part there in the snow. Gawain on Blanco full bene to the kinges burger boskes abolde, on the knichte in the enke grene, widoward so edde he would. Wildest ways in the world does Gawain now ride through on Gringolet, he who by grace had been given back his life, having many more minor adventures. The hurt was soon whole that had opened in his neck, and the glimmering girdle he girt round him gathered obliquely as a baldric there bound about his side, locking under his left hand there that lace with a knot, then as a token that he had been taken in the tainting of a fault. And eventually he comes thus to court, to be greeted with the highest happiness, and he tells the whole story, the chaunce of the chapel, the chair of the knichte, the loaf of the lady, the lice at the laste, the nick there in his neck he nakedly showed them that was laid on him for his disloyalty at the Lord's own hands there in blame. It troubled him that he should it tell. He groaned there for grief and grame. The blood into his face did well, that he should thus show it for shame. Look, Lord, said the liegeman, and the lace he then handles. This is the bond of this blaming that I bear now on my neck. This is the blemish and the bale that I brought on myself for the cowardice and covetousness that I was caught in there. This is the token of the untruth that I was taken within, and I must needs now so wear it, while that I may live. For none may hide away his error, but mishap shall betide him. For where it once is so attached, its untying is impossible. The king comforted the captain, and all the court did also, laughing loudly at the tale, and lovingly accorded those lords and the ladies that belonged to the table, that each bold man of the brotherhood such a baldric should so have, a band there obliquely about him of the brightest green, that for the sake of that stalwart in suit would be worn then. For that was reckoned to the renown of the Round Table, and he be honoured whoso held it for evermore after. As it is borne out in the best of the books of romance, thus in Arthur's own day did this happening occur, and the books of the brute thereof bear fullest witness. Long since Brutus, that bold and brave one, first brought himself hither after the sieging and the assault had ceased there at Troy, ye wis. Many adventures heretofore have befallen such like ere this. May he who the thorny crown bore now bring us unto his bliss. Amen. Honi soit qui mal y pense. You're very gracious. Thank you very much for giving me something to talk to aim at. Make it all alive. Thank you.